All right, what's up, everyone? Welcome to the channel, and we have apparently leaks. Now, of course, this is to be taken with a grain of salt. These are unconfirmed. Recently, Ben Bro tweeted out saying that, hey, we found something that was supposed to come out tomorrow in the patch, and it got messed up, so we got delayed, so it might be a week. But in the meantime, apparently, this Korean website, game.naver.com, just got it all. So let's take a look. Now, again, remember, grain of salt, unconfirmed, all that good stuff. Let's take a look and see what potentially is in store for us. So first, we have patch highlights. New feature is going to be artist credits. You can now view the illustrator's information by clicking on the variant name above the card in the collection. This is awesome, coming from someone that's a Magic player, and it's cool to see artists that you like and the credit for them, and people might, look out for those different artists and like their work coming out, especially in other games and that kind of thing. So this is really cool, awesome to see. We saw this on the developer roadmap, so nice to see potentially coming soon. General update, automatically filter your favorite variants when editing your deck in the collection view. That's pretty cool. Hopefully it's kind of like, in my mind, I'm thinking of like filtering cards by the type of variants they are. For example, like the Venomized variants or the Winter variants, that kind of thing. And being able to see them like that, because I've seen some content creators want to be like an all chibi deck or all pixel deck and that kind of thing. So that might make it easier. If it means just something else in general and it's just a general, quality of life update to make it a bit easier and more flowing for filtering things, that's cool too. Now the section where multiple cards trigger on each other's too long, the time it takes to finish the loop automatically increases, meaning Wong, Onslaught, Mystique, Ironheart. That's awesome. So if you've ever seen the Wong, Onslaught, Mystique plus X card combo, like Gambit or something like that, and it takes forever to happen, this is supposedly what's, it means it's going to go by faster. So that's awesome. Less time staring at your opponent, especially when you're the losing player and you're watching them just go through this over and over again. It really sucks. This might be the thing that Ben Brode said was what caused them to not release it today. So maybe that's it. So we'll see. Fixed Orca issue. It's added to Series 4. Cool. People can test that Orca now. I still think it's a really bad card. It's just a slightly better Namor. But I think it's bad. So we'll see. Maybe I'm wrong. Russian language support. Cool. Good to see other people and other people in different parts of the world get access to it. For new players who want to get started right away, we are releasing a Pro Bundle available for a one-time purchase only, including 12,500 credits plus boosters to upgrade 8 common cards to infinity. That is massive. So this is really cool because it allows new players to just jump the gun. And because, again, there is such a huge gap between new players coming in and existing players, and that gap's going to only get bigger and bigger and bigger as we go along through the longevity of this game. And getting a jump from ignoring just the 12,500 credits, that's awesome. Which I guess apparently means they're bumping the credit limit again, because wasn't it just bumped to 10,000? So is this going to be over that? That's interesting. Plus boosters, that's the big thing. Boosters upgrade 8 common cards to infinity. Like, yeah, you get boosters and that boosters kind of suck, but the problem I have with a lot of the bundles that you get is when and they're like the Sunspot and not the Infinite, I'm sorry, the Apocalypse bundle, you got 100 boosters. That's cool. But that doesn't mean it's automatically enough to go to infinity, right? Sometimes it's off, which is weird. This is supposedly, it should just be a blanket, immediately jump to infinity. It shouldn't even go through all the things up. It just hit it. It's infinity now. But that's a big thing. More bundles should come with boosters to just straight up be like, and I think variants should come with boosters. If I spend 700, 1,200 gold on a variant, I should automatically get a boot. Like I think it should be like a token or something like that. You literally just hit it and it goes straight to infinity, or it's unlocked as infinity, something like that. I don't know. Anyway, the next thing. Now the number of collector's tokens received by collecting all Series 3 cards with collector's treasures will change. So what they're saying is if you have all of Series 3 unlocked and you're getting tokens, they're changing how many you get now. Individual payout tokens are not set at 400, but will be 200 to 600. However, the token acquisition rate will remain the same. So that's cool for players like me who have finished Series 3. I just finished Series 3 recently. that's cool. No longer does it go, you get 100 in some chests and then 400 in other chests. Now it looks like it's minimum 200 and maxing to 600 if you high roll it, which is great for players that want to get more collectors, or series 4 and 5 cards, especially if you have these finished. But this doesn't help the people that have just got into Pool 3. We need something for them. Again, like I said, the gap between players is just going to get larger and larger and larger as the game goes along. And it's really, you want to incentivize people to continue the grind, and there are going to be people that FOMO is going to be a thing, and they just, instead of spending money on the game, they're just going to leave. So this is great for people who have completed Series 3, but Series 3 is so large, it's hard to complete it all. So hopefully we see something that updates or, helps players along the way going through Series 3. But this is a good start. Audio, new area sounds, Asgard Daily Bugle. Cool. New card sounds, Arrow and Polaris. And then added Arrow for art and visual effects. That's awesome. Arrow is a cool card. It should have some type of visual effect, so happy to see that. Here's the big thing. Here's the big stuff, and I'm sure you're already reading ahead of me. But remember, grain of salt, unconfirmed. We don't know if this is accurate. Could be changed last second. This whole thing could be fake. We don't know. But it's fun to take a look and see if it's real. And based on the wording of some of these developer comments, it does make me feel like it could be something written by Second Dinner, but let's go on. First one is Arrow from a 5.8 to a 5.7. They say Arrow's effectiveness is great for both obstruction and control. Previously, we increased the Arrow's stats to where it is now, but since players have realized how to use her, we thought it might be a good idea to lower her power a little bit. So for those of you who don't know, back in beta, Arrow was a 5.6 and she got bumped up to a 5.8. Now they're going with the middle ground to see if that helps. And I agree, Arrow is probably the best card in the game, especially with the way that you can disrupt your opponent. So this is pretty cool to see. I think she's going to be fine. I honestly am of the opinion that if you made her a 5.6, she would still be playable and still be one of the best cards of the game. So let's move on. Galactus. So Benbro did say a while back that Galactus was on the watch list, so let's see what they say. Even at the highest ranked play, decks using Galactus have huge cube gains and win rates. Some decks don't explicitly announce that Galactus will be coming, and there are plenty of support cards that some decks find difficult to counter. We're going to lower Galactus's power by 1 and then evaluate if further changes are needed. I'm going to be of the assumption that they're going to have to reevaluate and they're going to have to have further changes. The way Galactus works as a deck, when they have their nut draw, basically, is Wave on 3, Galactus on 4, Spider-Man on 5, and then big something on 6, typically Null or like Magneto or something with a lot of power. Lowering Galactus to a 6-2 does not change that play. It doesn't make it worse. Your play on turn 5 is not going to be able to match 2 and then 3, so that's 5. So let's say on turn 5 you play something. I mean, this is if your lane is empty and you're playing stuff on whatever. So what's a 5-cost card you can play? Like there's Arrow, who's a 7 now. There's Red Skull's a 15 but buffs them up, so now you have 5 and 5, so now they're at 10. Or no, they're at 9. They're at 9 because the nerf. So they're at 9, then they play Null that kills what, I mean, you're not beating that. So I don't think this does anything. And I don't think Galactus is a huge problem from what I've seen in my playing. I usually hover around 70s, 80s, topped out at like 90. I haven't hit Infinite yet, but I mean, I hope they don't change Galactus and how he works in terms of like his card design. I think it's really cool, but man, I don't think this changes much. The problem isn't Galactus's power. It's just the fact that being able to lock down the lane, like with Spider-Man after Galactus, and then just be like, here's Null, who has 37 power. I don't know. We'll have to see. Next is Leader, which is the big one that everyone's been complaining about for weeks. Going from a 6-4 to a 6-3, they say many players are picky about Leader's effectiveness, and the ability to stop the game and make it difficult to play other 6-cost cards has been a mixed bag. We're going to lower the power a bit and see if further modifications are needed later. I think Leader is still a very good card at a 6-3. I don't think this changes much. You still get a decent power swing, especially if you go have those one-on-one situations where it's just a 6-drop that your opponent plays, and then the same lane you drop Leader, you get the equal power and the effect. Typically that wins, especially if it's an on-reveal effect. Now, here's my opinion on Leader. I think Leader should be reworked to say if your opponent plays 2 or more cards this turn, then copy. That still allows Leader to be effective against things like Sarah Miracle decks and new Zabu decks and things like that. Decks that are designed to throw up their entire hand on turn 6. Put a lot of power on board. That is still an effective play for Leader to counter. And I think that's good for the meta. We don't want every top deck to just be barf decks that just play everything on turn 6. We don't want that. I don't think that's good for the longevity of the game. Leader is a nice check and balance to that. Same with Leech, for example. However, where Leader tends to feel really bad is if you are just playing just on curve and then on turn 6 you drop like a big Hulk or Magneto or Giganto in the left lane or whatever, and then they play Leader in the same lane and they're just like, I win. That's where it feels bad. I think Leader deserves to be a direct counter to those kind of decks like Sarah Miracle and Zabu decks, but I don't think it should counter just straight up on curve big plays if you play a single big card. So there's a little bit of more thinking involved from the Leader player, because a lot of people say that Leader's a brain dead play. This makes it not as much a brain dead play. I disagree with that sentiment in general, but I understand where it's coming from. It's a frustrating card. So I think that's what I would do. I would say 2 or more cards played, then copy them. If it's just 1, Leader doesn't do anything. And I think that's a nice balance. Next is Nova from a 1-2 to a 1-1. They say Nova's effect is much stronger than any other 1-cost card, so they don't think it was appropriate to have Nova have the average stats of a 1-cost card. Perfectly fine. Nova's incredibly powerful with things like Killmonger and just destroy decks in general. One of the best cards in the game, especially in lower pools. I agree with this. I think that's fine. A 1-1, perfectly fine. Next is Drax and Groot. They both appear as 4/4s, and if the card was played this turn, they get +4 power and +3 power respectively. They're changing both of them to being a 4/5 and a 3/4, getting +3 and +2. So what that means, what they say is, while you may think Guardians effects will create a lot of fun, it also can feel like an all-or-nothing game. We hope to increase Drax and Groot's base stats to lower the risk of playing cards and increase their attractiveness in the 3 and 4 cost slots. Okay, so they're making them better if you miss, so they're no longer just 3/3. You get a little bit of buff there, so they're a bit more appealing to play in the event that your opponent doesn't play anything there. But if they do, they still get the +3 and +2 to go back to what they originally were in the previous card or the rendition, where it ends up being a 4/8 and a 3/6. I think you could make this be still +4 power and +3 power and make them be a 3/7 and a 4/9, because even then I don't think they'd be that much better. I think they'd be a lot better in the sense of like playability, but in comparison to other cards, it makes them a little bit more appealing. I understand Groot hitting me a 3/7 would be better than Maximus on the decks because you don't give your opponents cards, but Maximus will always be a 3/7, where Groot will be sometimes a 3/7 if you have to play it right. So I think they could have done that, but this is a great start. This is a great idea, so I like to see it. Hazmat from 2/1 to 2/2. We know there are some powerful looking Hazmat combo decks, but Hazmat's overall performance is not so good. So in this update, we want to raise it slightly. I love this. I'm a huge fan of Hazmat, one of my favorite cards even before Luke Cage came out. So I'm a fan. I'm a little biased in that regard. But I do think Hazmat overall is pretty weak. A 2/1 to a 2/2, I think that's fine. I really doubt that's going to do that much. But hey, we've seen some nerfs be a pretty big difference in terms of that 1 power change. So we'll see. Black Cat from a 3/6 to a 3/7. Black Cat is rarely used. We wanted to increase its attractiveness by increasing its power. Cool. I like Black Cat a lot in Hella style decks, being able to get a free discard and a free 3/7 now. And those decks are pretty cool. Might make her more attractive and more Hella lists overall. The problem is the Black Cat can't be played in any kind of deck. It's really hard to play her because if you open with her or get her in the first couple draws, I guess you could play things like Quicksilver and Domino to, make it so you draw her turn 3 and after more often, but then you're playing worse cards. But that's the problem, right? To make her work, you need to be playing a discard deck or play worse cards to make her more consistent when you have her. So she belongs in a discard deck or Hella deck, and until we get more effects like Ghost Rider and Hella where they can reanimate cards you've discarded, I don't know if this is going to change that much in her playability outside of those archetypes. But cool to see otherwise. Nakia from a 3-1 to a 3-2. We think Nakia's effect is an interesting mechanic, but it currently has a very low success rate. We want to buff it up to make it a bit more of an attractive option. So yeah, Nakia being a 3-2 is cool. They've changed this card so many times. They used to just hit everything in your hand. But now it doesn't. I don't know. I don't think this does much. I've been saying that a lot for some of these buffs, but the problem is Nakia is designed a way where you have to be very particular in how you play out your hand to basically have this hand management to where you can play her on 3 or 4 even to buff very particular cards in your hand, and that can be a little difficult. So we'll see. I'm happy to see buffs though. Buffs in general are great, so that's good. That does it for the buffs. Zone updates. Now if there's a Professor X in Oscorp Tower, it will not change faction. Did not know that even happened. But I've never gotten a Professor X on the field on an Oscorp Tower before turn 3. So updated text for Wraps and Vibranium Mine. We don't know what that is, but I'm sure it's something that makes it better looking. Decrease the chance of Warrior Falls appearing. Cool. Don't like that zone as much. Usually I just storm it or play like a armor on it. Bug fixes. I'm not going to read through all these. And then known issues. I'm not going to read through all these either. So that's it. Let me know what you guys think. Remember to like, subscribe, comment, all that good stuff. Help grow the channel. Really appreciate the support and all that good stuff. And if you want to check out other work that I have, I write articles for Marvel Snap Zone. Also playingpioneer.com. I'm on the Pioneer Perspective every single week where I talk Magic the Gathering, the Pioneer formats, if you want to hear that. And I'm going to start streaming more actual Marvel Snap gameplay and putting more stuff into this channel. This is pretty much the start for the new year for that New Year's resolution for me to be more active on this channel and more active in the Marvel Snap community in general. But that's going to do it for me. Remember, this all comes with a little grain of salt, a little pinch of salt, and it's unconfirmed. But if this is what it is, tell me what you think about it in the comments. What do you think about these buffs, these nerfs, all that kind of stuff? And I will see you guys next time. See ya.